Hello and welcome to Women in Rugby League Pioneering Years. This is the next phase of the Women in Rugby League project, beginning to uncover the history of women's rugby league right from the 1980s when everything began. And it's my absolute pleasure, and I'm so excited about it. I'm loving this project because I'm beginning to catch up with some old friends. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Kath Newell, who was involved at Fulham Women in the late 1980s and 1990s, but also a match official, but heralding from the Northwest. And she's come to talk to us about her days in London, of which a lot of people don't know about. Fulham Women and the pioneering work that actually went on in London towards women and girls rugby league. So really welcome, Kath.
Hi, Julia. Good to be with you.
I know. We've just been having a little catch up, and we've got so much to talk about with what happened there. So, just tell us a bit about, first of all, where you were born, how you got involved in rugby league, and then we'll talk a bit more about your London days.
Okay, so I was born just north of Liverpool in Bristol Waterloo. My parents were both from Warrington, so they were both Warrington. They were Wire fans. It's Wire, it's not Wales. It really isn't Wales. So I grew up watching The Wire from probably about 1970 something. I can't remember. My first match was actually 1975 at Wembley, watching the Blues to witness. Great. And I went to the odd match prior to that. So I think I first started watching regularly in 81. And after a while, I kind of got into the idea that refereeing might be a good thing. So yeah, joined the local referee society.
So how was that? What year was that then that you actually joined?
That would be 86, 87, something like that. So I was doing A levels at the time. Yeah, that'd be about right. Yes.
It was about the same time, wasn't it? We were
Yeah.
just about the same time. So how were they and you joining them? And
It was a bit weird to start with. Like, there was sort of you could feel some people thinking, "What on earth is she doing here?" And all I can remember was sitting around a table looking at a sort of rough up of a rugby pitch and being asked, all of us being asked questions about, so is this offside? Is this offside? And I remember making some comment. And Ken Spencer, who was one of the lead referees in Warrington at the time, said, "Oh, you've got a deep voice, haven't you?" And, and I said, "Well, I think that's supposed to be helpful. That should be a bonus, shouldn't it?" Quite sure why you said that, but yeah. But no, they accepted me really well. They were a good group of guys. I remember going up with four of them to do the referee's exam in Leeds, and I just finished all of my A levels, and this was the last exam I had of that year, and yeah, that was a jolly time. Yeah, we did the exam sitting in this boardroom at wasn't Red Hall, it was wherever the previous one was.
yeah, it would have been Chapeltown.
Chapeltown, yeah, it's a delightful area. Sitting around this board doing the exam and then coming out and then going for a beer afterwards, which was really good. Yeah, no, it was a good time, good times.
Yeah. Did you manage to do any games in Warrington then?
No, because I came, that was the summer, and I came down to London almost immediately the following September, which is when I went to college.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So London Calling. So
yeah.
tell us a bit more about how you got involved in the London Rugby League scene, which at the time was mostly up in age, wasn't it? And they had a professional club, which was Fulham at that time.
Yes, but they also had a lot of amateur teams as they do now, really. I had contacted the rugby league to say I was coming out to London. I just qualified as a referee. I was keen to get involved in the game in some respects. And the London League Referee Society got in touch and said, "Okay, what can we do?" And I said, "Well, can I touch judge for a bit to get the lie of the land, understand what the clubs are, and that kind of thing." And I remember being given this at Twickenham St Mary's College. I can't remember they're playing there. And that was the first game. So I remember I didn't know where the ground was, so I rang around, and that's how I met the partner. So I called him first off, and he gave me the instructions as to how to get there. So I'm running around in my tracksuit, waving my flag merrily, thinking, "What am I doing here?" And I got this tap on the shoulder and said, "Oh, you see, you found it then." So yeah, that was the first involvement with the London League. And to be fair, I ended up doing a lot of touch shooting, so I went around various grounds. And yeah, I did that. I got into coaching. I can't remember how that happened really. I got involved with Reg.
Reg Pierce.
Yes, there must have been some kind of playing contact because I remember getting involved at Sunbury. coaching the kids on Saturday morning, which wasn't really my aim, but it was quite fun. It was good to talk rugby league with people that understood the game. That was lovely.
Mm.
And of
He
course,
he was a legend, was Reg, and really great at getting people involved. I did a bit of coaching at Sunbury as well.
yeah, I think it was a guy called Ross, who used to be involved at Ealing. I think he and Reg got me involved in the coaching there. But yeah, so every Saturday I'd pitch up and help these kids. That was good fun.
Yeah, there was hundreds of kids as well, wasn't there?
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
surprisingly, but yeah.
yeah. So how did you get involved with Fulham women then?
Well, I met you, didn't I? Force of nature that is Julia Lee. Yeah, yeah. We must have met. Oh yeah, we went to Wales. We did a trip to Wales to.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
so a London League match,
Yeah.
representative match. And you convinced me that it'd be a good idea because to understand the game, we'd never play. We don't. Well, I don't know whether
We'd never been allowed, had we?
No. And we thought it'd be a good idea to set up a women's team. So the germ of the idea started there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got into play.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about the sort of the setup of Fulham women and how we went about it. And I know it was a baptism of fire for both of us. I mean, we're both 18, 19 at that time, weren't we?
Yes, yeah. So I was at college. As in the summer, I think we sort of got started advertising for players, people to get involved. I think we had Miriam at that point. I can't really remember.
The legend that is Miriam.
There's a small nucleus of people that must have got involved from the start. And then I think we advertised in, God, all the freebies that you used to be able to get it, freebie papers you used to be able to get in London. Are you interested in playing? I mean, I think we were intending to tap the Aussie and Kiwi market because clearly there were lots of Australians and New Zealanders in London. I think we looked out with a few players. Certainly we got a woman called Leonie who used to play for.
Oh yes.
She played for New Zealand Rugby Union women's team. She joined us, and also rather randomly Lucy, whose surname I can't remember, but was a Canadian. She played American football in Canada, so she was. She was fearless. I remember, but so I think that happened throughout the summer. We swanned off to Australia. Leaving me to work out who was going to be playing for us, and I think we sort of got it going the following autumn. Training at Fulham at the time, Chiswick. And that's how we got started.
So how supportive were Fulham at the time? Do you remember sort of Bev Risman and?
Oh yes, yeah. So I think from a sporting point of view, they weren't that fussed about us using the ground, and I remember us struggling to find somewhere to play on a regular basis. Indeed, I remember being shunted off to or having to go to Bracknell. It was something like a Z Team Rugby Union pitch. It was like a quagmire, and you can see what was the Z Team's pitch because I remember it was like the Somme. You put your foot down, and you take your foot back out again. There's no boot on the end of it. It was just awful. That's I can't remember who we were playing there, but that was terrible. So they weren't staggeringly supportive at the time. I mean, I think that they liked the idea. They just weren't able to provide any facilities or, support us on a regular basis, provide a home.
Yeah.
For us Fulham women, I was rather hoping that would be the catalyst for us to work together.
Yeah, I think that's why we called it that in the first place, wasn't it? So that we would, and I know we did play our first, my memory is we played our first home game as a curtain raiser against Halifax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the memory of it, because I remember a couple of coaches coaching us they gave us a couple of coaches, but they didn't teach us how to catch and pass. They taught us moves, of which a lot of us couldn't catch and pass, and a lot had never seen a game of rugby league. And I think it was 100-0. Halifax came down, who, well, at that time, they were just phenomenal.
They were, yes.
And I just remember Lisa Mack just continually running at us and scoring tries. And then an image of our first kick down the field when we actually did one of the moves and all of us standing there clapping. And in the meantime, Lisa or one of the players had gathered it and was running past us as we all clapped.
Oh dear, yeah. Yes, I have vague recollections of that, but I mean it did improve, didn't it? I remember playing matches.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think Surrey Heath as a club were far more supportive. They provided facilities, and they were helpful. Some of us trained there on a regular basis too.
Yeah, and Reg Pierce coached
Yeah,
the team,
I
didn't
guess that's
he?
a connection. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and he was very supportive and actually taught us how to play, which was
Yes,
one of the problems, wasn't it?
yeah.
Was the plight. So just tell us a bit more about Fulham women then, and the travel and playing your games and in the league, and because there wasn't many teams nearby at that time, was there?
No teams nearby. I can't remember who our nearest neighbours would have been. Nearest team would have been probably Halifax, wouldn't it? I remember travelling up to Halifax, and we must have played a team in Leeds. I think we played at Guiseley. That rings a bell. Um, in fact, that might be the place. It was extremely muddy, and at the end of the match, we were all so much covered in mud. They wouldn't let us into the changing rooms. They sort of showered us down before we actually went into the changing rooms. Then it was suddenly their pristine showers with our mucky boots. That was quite funny. And I remember travelling up to Warrington, which was where my parents were. I believe I scored a try. In fact, that was my only try. The only try of my career was at Warrington. But yeah, the travel was a drag because it was clearly a good couple of hours in a minibus. An early start for most of us, and yeah, the slog of getting up and then clearly coming back down again on the way back. I mean, it was good-hearted and fun, but it was hard work.
Yeah.
So fair play to Miriam to doing a lot of the work in terms of getting the minibus up and running. And
Yeah, because she managed to find the minibus, didn't she?
Alan Smith and Fulham Council, good for them. We borrowed the mini. Well, we rented it. I think it was a seriously reduced price. So yeah.
Yeah. So what were the games like then? What was it like sort of travelling up north, and the teams, how did they receive you as a southern team coming down?
I think for the teams themselves were fine. I think some of the spectators were a bit. I remember I remember a bunch of spectators. I can't remember where this was singing, humming the EastEnders tune. Like of course we were all from London, weren't we? Not, I think two of the team were from London. But for the most part, no. I think they possibly thought a bit of a novelty, and would this last? Because the travel thing is clearly a killer. Because it was we weren't paid, we weren't getting any money for it. There was no sponsorship. We had tried to get sponsorship, but that hadn't worked. So it was a hard slog. But the teams we spoke to and played were good-hearted and wished us well, I think, from memory.
Yeah, absolutely. They do speak very highly. Everyone remembers Fulham if you go speak back to that sort of generation.
Yeah.
So what position did you play then?
From half. Yes. Yes. My favourite player of all time, I think, had to be Peter Sterling. Sorry, I know he's a whole player, but yeah. So yeah, scrum half. Although I played in the wing for Lancashire.
Yeah. Oh, tell us a bit more about your Lancashire, representing Lancashire then. How did that come about?
So the match, Lancashire versus Yorkshire, curtain raised to the 1990 Premiership final, I think.
There was two actually. There was one 1990 and one 1991.
All right, so it was 1990. I played in that one, and it was suggested that we had representatives. It was suggested we had representatives from playing for Lancashire from the London team. So possibly four of us were selected to play. Again, Miriam, myself, Kath, and I can't remember the fourth person. But Miriam got the trusty minibus up and running, so we went up to Rochdale, had a night in I think it was one of the Rochdale players. Their parents put us up for a night, which was really kind. And yes, so the following day we're all, I think, on the coach going from. We got changed to it was like a civic hall in somewhere like Salford, and we got changed to this civic hall. God knows why. And we got on the minibus all dressed up in our kit ready to go. And this coach took us into Old Trafford, which was absolutely heaving with people. I don't think I've ever seen so many people. It was quite staggering being on. There was us, and then there was the coach of the Yorkshire team. Quite a lot of gesticulation, I should say, going on between the two coaches. It was quite funny. And yeah, so we went into Old Trafford and sort of managed to put our kit or stuff down in one of the changing rooms. And we watched the first match, Oldham versus OKR, I think, can't remember. And we're sitting in the stand thinking, yeah, when's this match going to finish? Because we've got to play at half time. Because this match went on and on. It's dragged into half time. So eventually we got the call, yes, we're going to play. And I remember there was a lovely woman from the Warrington team who said, oh, follow me. She was sort of almost maternal figure. I apologize, can't remember her name. So we sort of all followed her, went out onto the pitch, which was absolutely huge. I remember thinking, I don't think I've ever played anything this big with the noise of the crowd. It was sort of capacity crowd. Yeah, and I was supposed to be on the right wing, so I thought, oh, I'm here because I'm number two. And then, oh shit, I'm not supposed to be over there. So the first two tackles, I made my way over to the other side of the pitch really quickly. And all I can remember was seeing that the Yorkshire attack coming towards us and moving in my direction. I'm saying, pull left, pull left, pull left. Nobody's moving. Come on, we've got to pull here. Yeah, but it was an amazing experience. But yeah, just a shame it was such a short match.
Yeah. So how long did you get to play in the end?
I think it was probably about 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those scenes where the first match they would run. Clearly, the main match was they weren't going to shift that for us, were they? Yeah, we were sort of sandwiched in the middle of these two games.
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And just in that time, actually getting on, them even entertaining women sort of on that main pitch was pretty fun, although obviously not thought through about how long you'll play and
No,
all those
the
sort of
logistics
things.
of it. I mean, clearly now you get lots more time in between. I mean, there's far more. I mean, clearly that was a completely different picture, but there's lots more time in between matches. So any overlap, there's room for maneuver, but clearly there wasn't on that.
Yeah.
But no, it was a real honour to play. It was it's amazing.
So what would be your proudest moment then? Would that be your proudest moment?
I think that probably would be because it was an amazing stage. And I think if you look carefully, you should be able to find some video footage. I think there's video footage of that particular.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, try the BBC. I think they do have footage of the entire because they've shown both games. I think they showed a bit of that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would probably be the proudest moment.
Yeah. And how were your obviously your parents were very big rugby league fans. How were they around you sort of playing and officiating?
Oh yeah, no, they were very, very supportive. I mean, they were very supportive of whatever I've done. So yeah, they came along to that match, and they actually saw the first match I touched because they'd fairly recently dropped me off in London. I think he'd come down for a visit just to see how I was getting on. So yeah, so they were also on the touchline somewhere watching it. Great, but no, they were very supportive. Yes.
Yeah. And are you still involved in the game now?
No, not at all. I mean, I watch clearly, but I don't have any involvement beyond that really.
Yeah. Do you watch any games or anything now?
So live, not much. Now I live out in Suffolk now, so it's there are some amateur teams in this neck of the woods, but nothing particularly close by. Clearly, the London scene, amateur-wise, has ballooned. You've also got London Broncos who are in the Super League, but the south of England and the south generally is it's got a lot more game, a lot more teams certainly than when I was first involved with it, which is quite amazing. And kids teams. I love seeing the fact you've got kids teams at Wembley. I think that's great.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? It's lovely, isn't it? When we initially were in London, and really the only activity was what Reg was doing, wasn't it? In that sort of
I don't
area.
remember anything else. I mean, I think they struggled for games, didn't they? Because the problem was there was nobody to play.
Yes.
Whereas now there seem to be school teams all over the place, which is really good.
Oh, that's fabulous, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, I know I had to go straight into refereeing open age because there was no kids to officiate. Yeah. Baptism of fire. So when you look back and see sort of what's happening in women's sport and rugby league now, what do you think about the part you played in your involvement in the sport, setting up a club and officiating and being really active in that time?
I suppose I hadn't really thought too much of it. I felt it felt to me like there was a big gap between me being involved in the sort of late 80s, now early 90s, and the scene now. There seems so. I suppose I was still involved in the game after I finished. So basically, my last match was end on a high. Was the match at Old Trafford. But I was involved in the game through my partner through doing statistics and stuff like that. So I mean, he was coach at Oxford University, so I was doing the stats for him for that, which was enjoyable. It sort of fitted my was the sort of work I wanted to do, but I wasn't really involved in the women's game, so it's hard to. I find it. It feels like there's a big gap from that when I played to now. It does seem like a massive leap, but I'm guessing there must have been people like me doing my type of thing all over the country, making these sort of teams happen, and that's you've sort of got this escalator effect where we've now got amazing publicity for the game. The fact is on telly, brilliant.
It is. It's fabulous, isn't it? It's fabulous, and I guess there was steps we had to go through in order to get an acceptance of women playing and women's involvement, and for it to become more familiar, because it was unfamiliar, wasn't it? We were booking the trend at that time of what was a male sport that was played by men.
So I remember I did a level 1 coaching course at Fulham. The guys on it was mostly players who were taking it. A couple of other people that were involved in the game in slightly different ways. That was taken by Bev Risman and Arsenal. I remember sitting in one of the club rooms there and being asked to make the tea. If I look back at it now and think, hang about, I've paid whatever it was to do the coaching course, and I'm being asked to make the tea. How does that work? I have to say, I did a latter coaching course, about a year or so later, where that didn't, none of that happened. It was very professional. That was Rusbridge. Yeah, it's very, very good. But yes, it's just that would never happen there. Well, you hope it wouldn't, wouldn't you?
You would hope it wouldn't, or they'd make a joke that you were going to make the tea, and we'd probably sit there and go, "Think not, don't you?"
Yes, it would be ironic rather than literally.
The presumption that you would. Yeah. Oh well.
Anyway, whatever.
Oh, Kath, it's been lovely catching up with you. And when you look, you need to be proud. And one of the things about this project is uncovering the pioneers. And you were a pioneer because you took the officiating course, you did coaching, you were out there playing as well when it wasn't a thing at that time. And without women like you and obviously other male allies, we wouldn't be where we are now. So I really thank you for the interview, and thank you for your part that you've actually played within the history of sport and rugby league in particular.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.